at youth group a week or so ago, and then I got a chance to meet with them, and God just used them in some mighty ways. And so I don't want to steal any of their thunder, and I'm going to let them share with you some of what God did through them and with them while they were in Thailand. Bryce, go ahead.
Hey everybody. Hey guys. I just wanted to start off and say we're super thankful for everyone who was able to donate and give to our trip. We're super blessed that we have a church community that's able to raise over like $9,000 for the three of us to go across the world. It's so cool to see how every single one of you guys were able to give in their own way. And it was just super, I was super blessed in just that way, just seeing how God was able to move back here to send us and go able to spread the word on the planet. So I'm going to start, we're going to pass the mic around and we're going to kind of talk you guys through kind of what our trip looked like. And then at the end, we're going to kind of give our testimonies and what we saw and what we saw God do in our lives. But I'm just going to start by opening it up and explaining the organization we worked with while we were in Thailand. It was called Sosa Life. And it was this really cool organization that was just starting to get on their feet. And right as we got there, it was really cool because they had a little yard, a estate with some buildings and stuff. And the coolest thing was as you walked on the property, you could tell he was blessed and that God was there. And just hearing some of the stories, they were really in need of water, so they dug a well, and they just happened to dig into the deepest and cleanest of water. Yeah, they'll put up some pictures behind. It was really cool to just see how God has moved all around the planet. And so we got to work with this really cool organization called Sosa Life. They help with trafficked women and stuff in the nation. And so it was just really cool to see their outreach in Thailand. And we were able to bless them. Brayden will talk about how we were able to do that. And they were also able to connect us with some different things, such as orphanages. And then they brought us to a couple places where we could street evangelize. So I just want to give a brief introduction. We got to work with Sosa Life, which is really cool. And so I'm going to give it to Brayden, and he's going to explain kind of what we did for them.
So one of the major things that we did, so our first day there, we kind of got introduced and walked around the grounds there, and they showed us everything that they kind of started, and how Miss Karina, she's one of the leaders there, how they got started and how they got the money to do it. But one of the major things that we did when we first got there was they had a path behind their buildings that they lived in, and they walked it every morning and prayed over all the kids and moms and workers there, as well as what God provided for them. And so we got the opportunity to actually build the path for them, other than just being grass. So we got to dig up the grass and make little ledges for bricks to go down, and we laid gravel for them to walk from point A to point B. So the start of their village and then the end to where their farms were and all the animals that they had. And I also connected to a few homes that the ladies lived in so that they could walk on it instead of just through their yard, up into a prayer room where they did worship and things like that. So yeah, we got to do that, and after we finished it, we got to pray over it and just bless them and give them a new way to just walk over their land and be able to pray. So, yeah.
Hi guys. So while we were working on this path, like Greg was saying, it was very physically tasking. And we were building this path out in the humid heat, trying to dig up all these roots, and it was physically tasking, but we were having a lot of fun with it. We were all working really hard, getting it done. And so finally, we started to go back because we were getting dehydrated and we were going to finish it the next day. And we had the option to go home and get in the pool. So we were finishing up this work, and I'm with a few guys, and we're just talking about different things in the Bible, and we hear in the sanctuary, kind of say, a bit smaller than the sanctuary, just praises coming in. You're just getting goosebumps because it was so powerful. The Holy Spirit was moving, and you could just hear it from this this building while we're working outside. And so I just go and I stand in the doorway. And I was like, we gotta go, man. We gotta go worship with them. This was so amazing because it was these mothers who had been taken advantage of their whole life and who had nothing left over here. They were pouring out their life to Jesus compared to even us here when we get tended in worship, and they were just pouring out the boldness they had. It was amazing to see. So we all walked in there and we were praising God. We only had a piano in our voices, but we sung so many songs, and it was an amazing experience, life-changing. So cool seeing all the different languages people were singing in. So yeah, that was a really cool experience we had while we were there. And then we ended up going and doing some street evangelism, and I'll let Bryce start that off.
Yeah, so moving on to our next couple of days, after finishing up the path, they were able to bring us out into the streets of Thailand. And I gotta say, it was like my first time ever street evangelizing, so it was pretty nerve-wracking because, I mean, we're out on this like big open square, and we're just out there doing skits and stuff. But it was really cool because we were able to draw a little bit of a crowd and get to talk to some of the people. And so I got to end up talking to this one guy. Well, I actually ended up talking to multiple people, but the most interesting thing is everyone I talked to was an atheist. So it was just really interesting. Yeah, it was like every single person either didn't want to believe in a God or was like choosing to like disregard that there was a God. And so it was really interesting because I got to see their points of perspective, and I wasn't able to make like much leeway, but it was really cool just like being able to like talk to them and just, you know, question like what does the afterlife look like and that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that we were able to plant some seeds. There's this other guy at the park I got to talk to some of the people on the trip, and he was just talking about how like he's never truly believed in a God, but the cool thing is he kept having interactions with Christians, and so it was really cool. He gave us a song, and so I gave him a song, and so we gave him like a worship song to listen to, and so hopefully he will be able to like grow in his faith, plant some seeds. And I'll let it rain.
Yeah, so on the day of the street evangelism, we kind of like started off with like skits and like we played some worship songs, but then there wasn't like a lot of crowds coming in, and it wasn't like discouraging or anything. I think it was just, you know, just what happened. So our one of the leaders at Social Life ended up taking us to like this park, like he was saying, and we kind of like split off from the floor. And as we did that, we just kind of walked around the whole park where people, I guess some of the people have said that they come like every day after work, and they like, there's basketball courts, there's, I can't remember the game that they were playing, but it's kind of similar to like a ball kind of, except they kicked the ball. It was like a little small wooden ball, and there's like a little playground for kids and like a little coffee shop for people to work at. And we just got to walk around and talk to people from different cultures. And I got to speak with these people from Uruguay, and the guy she was with, he was from somewhere in the Middle East, but she like lived in London and all that her whole life. And just talking to her about like how they came to Thailand, they were just like visiting her, stuff like that. And they ended up asking us like what we were doing there, and we kind of said like we were just, you know, sightseeing and things like that. But then the opportunity came up for us to like start talking about mission stuff. They asked like what the mission work looked like, and they just kept pushing on the questions of like religion and all that. And I was with Angelo and someone else, I can't remember who was with us. But we like were asking kind of similar to what they were asking, was like, do you follow like any religion, or what do you think about the afterlife? And the guy was like, I never really, you know, pursued any religion, but he said all of them seemed interesting to him. And I thought it was weird to hear somebody say that he thought that they were all interesting, just considering that most people there, you know, were set on one religion, whether they were Christian, Buddhist, or atheist. And just him saying that, you know, all of them were interesting and kind of made his mind think a little. It was interesting to hear because I never heard it personally. People just think about different things. And then the lady there was not religious. I think she was atheist. Like Bryce was saying, most people there were. So that was one couple that we talked to. And then we talked to this other older guy, and he was American. I can't remember where he was from in the U.S. and then his wife, she was a Christian. She heard us talking about it, and she came to us, and she began talking to us and saying like her husband's like kind of Christian, kind of not Christian, and that he says he was too far gone, and that the devil had a grasp on him, and he would never be able to make it back. So I was with Joel Holland. He's like the missions director at Cross Points, and he was kind of just pouring, life and encouraging words into him, saying he wasn't too far gone. Like if you think about it, nobody's too far gone from being able to go to heaven and learn more about God. So I just thought that him saying that was kind of sad to hear, just that somebody would think that. So I think just being able to encourage him, and like Bryce was saying, plant some seeds, whether he was listening or not, that we got to pour into him.
My experience, mainly in the square we were first at, I wasn't talking to many people. It was kind of distracting. There was this like photographer with all these pigeons that was like throwing things to scare them. It's like Gabe ministry, and then all of a sudden, birds go flying everywhere. So that was distracting. But like Bryce said, we got to go to the this park later and split up and talk to different people. And my group went out to talk to these two French guys. We got to play basketball with them, and then after the game, we just talked about them, what they were doing in Thailand. They said they were just taking a break from college and stuff. And we started asking them about what they believed in religion, different things like that. And one of the guys said he was interested in big cathedrals in France, because he was like, why would somebody build this giant, beautiful thing, because he was into architecture and stuff like that, to something that might not be real. And that was interesting to hear. And we asked them different questions, like what do you think's gonna happen after death? How do you think we are here? Stuff like that. And they said they don't like to think about those big questions because it makes them sad. Usually the answers are sad to them. And they would rather ignore it and live life and try to accept it or find out what's happening. And that was sad to hear, because I'm just like, the answer's right here. But yeah, it was really cool to hear that. We were able to pray over them, get them thinking on how hopefully planted some seeds, and yeah, that was my experience.
So moving on from that, we did street evangelizing, which was really cool. Let's go through all kinds of different stories from that. But about a day or two later, we got to put on a little service for the people at Sosa Life and just pour out into them. And we were able to kind of do a church service in like our style, and so they allowed us to put it on. It was really cool because we were able to do a worship set with some of our songs, and some of them knew the songs in Thai, so it was really cool because during the worship service they would be singing in Thai while we're singing English. There's something so powerful when you hear multiple languages declaring, God's power. It's just really cool to see because, of course, Sosa Life is helping with trafficked women and stuff, and so there was a lot of women and children there, and it was just really cool to see them engage in worship after all that they've been through, and it was just really cool experience because some of us were able to preach sermons and let them know about God and try to encourage them, and it was just a really cool experience because we were able to pour into these women who've gone through quite a lot. And so that was really cool. But moving on from that, Brayden's going to tell you a little bit about an orphanage.
Yeah, so after the Wednesday service was the next few days were our village missions work. So we traveled from Sosa Life 3 hours up into the mountains of Chiang Mai, and that's where we went to our first village. And most of them were young kids, but we put on a VBS for them. So we swapped songs, and then we had little skits that we did, and then after we kind of split off into groups of 4 again, where we did crafts and things. But the first one I felt more connected to, and the second I think it was just seeing how little kids that didn't speak English and didn't even know why we were there, began engaging with us and pursuing the songs and enjoying what we were doing, and jumping around and all that, and just seeing their smiles on their faces, as well as the workers there too, coming up and talking to how do you have the courage to do some of these things, get up and tell testimonies and pray for them and sing songs. So I thought it was kind of interesting for the adults there to come up and be like, you're encouraging to us, and you were helping us step out in faith, and do things that the Lord wants them to do. And I think just seeing the kids, like I said, just with their smiles and light faces, just enjoying what we were doing there in the first village was powerful.
And so the next day, we found out the next orphanage we were going to.
They went to 2 orphanages. Okay, so this is the second one you're talking about.
Yes. It's the second one. So we were going to another orphanage, something, I don't remember the name, but they ended up getting COVID, or some of the kids got COVID, so we just got to pray over them. We weren't able to go there for minister, so we were kind of bummed because we were supposed to go there for the next 2 days to minister. And we were like, we'll pray about it, we'll sleep on it. There's another one we want to go to, but leaders are atheists and won't let any religion in, never let any of the kids try any religion or anything like that, so it's not very helpful. Apparently, the next morning we got news that a worker there that was from Sozo Life that had gone to the orphanage and had been helping there, who was actually from Kansas originally, stood up to the atheists and was like, you can't tell these kids no to God. You can't not let these missionaries in. And the atheists gave in and let us come to minister. So, yeah, that was really And so we were really excited to go there. We got in all the vans and hopped out, and immediately when we walked in, like Bryce said, these kids are just so excited to see you. They love new people. They don't get many visitors, especially with most of them having to be missionaries, right? So we got to minister to them a bit. I know Nick kind of went and distracted the atheists, talking to them while we did all these God stuff in front of them. And I even got to talk to one of the atheist leaders a bit. She was so, I don't know, she just had this aura about her that was just like offsetting, that you could tell she wasn't looking for God at all. And apparently they were from Washington. They just decided to go to Thailand and start an orphanage. That's so weird. Where's the reasoning? So we got to minister to them, minister to the kids a bit. That was a lot of fun, and I'm going to let Bryce and Brayden tell a few stories from the orphanage.
Yeah, so it was really cool because we were the first Christians that were ever able to go into this orphanage. So it was just really cool. It's the first time these kids ever got to hear about God. And so that was already in and of itself like such a cool experience. Like, that's so cool. But I'm going to tell a quick story. There was 3 boys. There may be a picture of them somewhere in the cycle. But their names were A, B, and C, like the letters A, B, and C. And they called themselves that because when they were really, really young, their parents decided that they didn't want them anymore, so they just dropped them off at a gas station and left them there. And so they started calling themselves A, B, and C. And so that was really hard to hear just because, like, I mean, that's horrible. And so these boys ended up in this orphanage. And the craziest thing about it is that these 3 boys, even going through like their parents abandoning them, they still had so much joy. Actually, they may have been like some of the most joyful kids there. They were just so happy to see us, and they were just so like so encouraged that we were there. And so it was just so cool to see the joy that they had through what they've gone through. And the coolest thing is they ended up giving their lives to Jesus. They were able to declare that they are children of God, even though they don't even know their parents who abandoned them. So that was just so cool to see, and it was such a powerful story.
Yeah, kind of like Bryce was saying, the kids there were like super excited and all that. So our last thing that we did that day was Pastor Nick at Cross Points. He gave like a little tiny sermon and opened up for an altar call for the kids. And he was just speaking encouraging words to them, no matter their situations, and praying over them and doing the last few songs. And after he prayed, he was like, if you raise your hand and you accept Jesus, raise your hand up. And as doing it in churches, I didn't want to look just so they could have their opportunity. But afterwards, Nick asked them to stand up, and there was like 20 plus kids standing up that gave their lives to Jesus, including ABC, and seeing their smiles and all that on their faces just was happy to see that kids that never heard of them and then living in an atheist household technically, hearing it for the first time for like a couple hours, that they wanted to pursue it. So I thought that was encouraging. And then we got to give them Bibles, and they took it like they've never gotten anything in their life before. They were so happy to have it. And whether they look at it and read it, it'll always be there. So if they're ever bored or anything, they have something to go to, because they don't have too much. So the things that we were able to give them, whether they're physical or not, they were happy to be able to obtain. So yeah, that was encouraging to see.
And then one of the last things we did while we were there ministering wise is we got to hear from Corinna, her parents. She started Social Life, and her parents had been helping in Burma. It's a different third world country, I think, and I'd been ravaged by war for the past several years. There's been floods, different things. They just needed a lot of help, so we made some bags for them, and we got to listen to these missionaries talk for a few hours about different experiences they had. And so that happened, and we all went off, and then I was like, I should go back up there and talk to them. So me and a different guy, Josh, got back up, and we went over and we sat down with these missionaries, 2 on 2, husband and wife, and we just got to hear their different experiences throughout their time in Burma, or how they were called, and they had been through so many miracles. It was so cool to see and hear the different miracles they've been through. 2 of the main ones that I wanted to share is one, this guy, the lead missionary, he had been drilling for water, and he heard from God to say, drill in the highest area, the highest point of this land that they were studying. And so he started drilling up there, and there were so many problems. The first drill guy wasn't able to do it. The second drill guy, the drill broke. He had to redo it. But after a day or 2, they finally got down to this water. And usually you want to dig at the lowest place for water, because that's where the water gathers. But it was at this really high place. And it was just completely clean, purified water that wasn't going to run out anytime soon for their base they were building. And so that was really important. Water is very important there, especially since most of it's contaminated. So that was very cool to hear as a miracle. And then the second one, the missionary was in a village, right? He's been ministering to these, and there was one man in the village who was just taking these children from school and beating them, doing different things. And the man, the missionary, went up to him and said, "Stop right now in the name of Jesus." And the guy walked up and tried to attack him. And this guy was much bigger than the missionary. The missionary was kind of scrawny, he wasn't a big guy. The missionary just took him and threw him on the ground, and said to him, "Do not hurt these children ever again." Walked away. And later, his friend comes running up to him. "That man that you threw on the ground is coming at you with his shotgun." And so he was like, "I'm going to go out to meet the man." I was like, how do you have that courage? That's amazing. So he goes out to meet this guy, and immediately when the man sees him, he points the shotgun at him. And the guy, I can't remember what he said. He said something "Your sins are forgiven," something like that. And the man just immediately fell on his knees and started weeping, crying, and praising the Lord. And he went and he hugged the missionary's legs and gave his life to Jesus that day. And I was like, wow, what a transformation that God can give through these miracles. And so, yeah, hearing those stories were really cool and encouraging. So, Bryce, continue now.
Yeah, so to kind of wrap this up, we're all going to kind of just quickly share our testimonies and what we saw God do. I just wanted to share, we didn't really mention it because obviously we had a lot to say and there's still a lot more stories, but while we were also there, that we got to visit some Buddhist temples, which was really interesting just because there's like a dark presence about these temples. Obviously, there's like all these monks walking around praising these different like statues and shrines. And so kind of what my testimony is, like throughout the whole trip, there was like this level of like darkness and like weighing on you where you could just feel that the enemy was at work. And the really cool thing is while we were there, we have like our morning devos before we got to spread the word each day. And we kind of all agreed that we were at spiritual warfare throughout the trip. And so even throughout the trip, some of us ended up getting sick. And as you can hear, our originally planned orphanage ended up getting COVID. But we were able to continue to pray and seek God throughout the trip. And we were able to see the miracles he was able to do, such as going to an orphanage that has never heard God. And so it was just super encouraging to see that we are the light of the world, and that prayer is extremely powerful, and that if you continue to pray, you can see miracles in your life and what God can do for you.
Yeah, that was really good. So for me, I think, like I said, the first orphanage, I felt, more inclined to encourage the kids more. Just felt more connected to helping them out rather than the second orphanage. Just because talking to some of the kids in the second one seemed kind of, not laid back, but didn't want to talk to you or certain things. So being able to talk to the younger kids and just play around with them all day and serve them and pour encouraging words to them was powerful. I think seeing them worship and then like do the things that we did made me think of like being able to be more faithful in worship and do the things God's called me to do, whether I'm feeling down about it or like this isn't going to happen, that's not going to happen. Just seeing the kids that never worshiped before have a heart for God and sing the songs that we're singing, I think made me think of like I could raise my hands during worship or sing songs, rather than being like I don't have to sing this, but I can still worship. I think just being more faithful in your worship and listening to what God has for you, whether you feel down about it or not, just like the kids were doing. So I think that's encouraging to hear.
The main thing I took away from this, I had been thinking a lot before the trip and during the trip, that we're so cool. Human beings are awesome. They were created by God, the creator of all, and we were created in his image, and we can do things through God. And I feel like a lot of the time we underestimate ourselves, our abilities, things we can do. But this whole trip is just a testimony to the things that God can do through you. We raised over $9,000, including all the other money for all the other teams that came with us at Crosspoints, which was incredible and a miracle in itself that we were able to raise that money. Second, we got to see the orphanage. Most of us stayed relatively not sick, even though some of us got sick, but it was just a very blessed trip. We got to hear many miracles. We got to go and we got to share the word, plant seeds for the future. All these things through just a bit of faith. Like when we first heard about the mission trip, I can testify, all of us were like, oh, there's no way. Yeah, there's no way. We kind of brushed it off, but like God has a plan through you. And then I just wanted to share the verse, Matthew 17:20. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can tell a mountain, move from here to there. So I just say, God can do anything through you. A bunch of teens went to Thailand and shared the gospel. So trust him, have a little faith, and you can do amazing things.
That's good, guys. Let's switch our hands to you. I'm so excited for God's going to continue to do. Father, we thank you so much for the willingness of these three to go and spread your word into a place that is so desperately in need of it. I pray that you continue to remind them of your faithfulness and the fact, I love how they shared with us that we are the light of the world, and their light will continue to shine here and everywhere they go. We thank you. Continue to bless them and continue to keep them healthy and whole. In the name of Jesus, everyone said, amen. Thanks so much.